How we doing, traders, and welcome to the SPACs attack. Let's get it. How we doing, traders? Welcome to the SPACs attack, where we talk about everything SPACs. And if you like SPACs, hey, do me a favor. Go ahead, reach on down there, hit the like button right down, hit the share. Let everyone know we're talking about Cathie Woods today. You know, one thing that we've been noticing is she has been dipping her toes in these SPACs and keeping it on the low. So we're going to go ahead and attack it, bring some watch lists, bring some of the SPACs that we've seen her buy, and also maybe some potentials that we think that she could be getting into. One thing that I will stress is that she does focus on certain trends, and we're going to be working on those also. So let's go ahead and bring in my man, the brains of the show, working hard like always, Chris Cathie. Look at that. I muted you. What's up, Chris?
Hey, how we doing?
Hey, another day in paradise, man, and looking at my portfolio. And, you know, one thing I can say is that even though my portfolio hasn't bounced as fast as I thought it would bounce, one thing I will say is the comfort level is okay, guys. I know a lot of people are worried about SPACs and worried if this is just speculation. To me, this is the perfect moment, because I look at my portfolio, and when I go down maybe 2-3%. But if I get some of these names to start coming out and start getting these rumors to come out, then I could easily see myself in the 40 to 50% green. And so to me, risking about 3 to 4% on the account, I can do that all day, every day. Now, one thing I can't do is risk about, let's say, 30% in a day. That's something that I never do. So definitely, I'm just watching my account, watching how it goes up with the market, watching how it comes down with the market. When it's come down, I've been close to the 4 to 5%. Don't really want to get over that 5%, but really, I'm looking for the upswings, and the upswings would get me above, let's say, 20 to 30 to 40% in the green. So that's what I'm gonna keep my eyes out. What's up with you, Chris? How's the portfolio looking, and how you feeling today?
You know, I'm seeing a lot of green in the portfolio, you know, so that's always a good thing. A lot of these SPACs, you know, moving up again with this market, you know, bouncing back. Some of the high-tech, high-growth names, and then also SPACs, you know, that got hit last week, you know, starting to come back. So as we said last week, you know, there could be some buying opportunities, you know, with some of these dips, but always, you know, make sure you know your own risk reward potential, you know, and it's never a bad idea to take some profits and also to keep some cash on the sidelines for, you know, a time like we saw last week. So, you know, definitely keep an eye out there.
Yep. And wouldn't you know it, two up that I kind of mentioned for you guys. I wanted to get you guys to keep your eyes on these. And RSI up today about 5%. GNOG up about 6.8%. Keep an eye on those. You know, I really like those plays long term. The real key is always getting these off of support. And when you can do that, you're going to give yourself a potential to get back in. We pointed out the 14 area in GNOG. We also pointed out the RSI level that we saw the bounce come right off of kind of this $16 level also. And really, we said it. If it could get in between 15 and 14, it would look really nice. And that's exactly what happened for 2 days. So I'm keeping an eye on these. RSI, you got GNOG. Now we do have some earnings, right?
Yep, RSI is reporting tonight after close. So, you know, that could be real interesting to hear, you know, how sports betting and iGaming is going for Rush Street. You know, they did start operations in a couple states within the last couple quarters. So, you know, some of the numbers will be telling, and also some of the commentary that they talk about, you know, what's going on in the current quarter. So not necessarily just the one they're reporting, but what's happening now. What can we expect in the future? So I know I'll be tuned in for RSI later tonight.
All right. Let's go ahead and let's keep going through here. Let's get into some headlines. Check out what you got for us, Chris. Let's peel back those curtains and head behind the hotline.
All right, guys. Yeah, so not a ton of headlines today. And also, I'm not seeing any new deal announcements out there, you know, so change of pace here. But taking a look at the headlines that we do have. So we have CLA, that merger was approved with Ouster. New ticker will be OUST. Shares were up 2% yesterday, so keep an eye out on CLA and OUST. As we've seen with lots of these SPACs on deal announcement, you know, and heading into that vote, they do have a tendency to sell off when the vote goes through. So keep an eye out on that chart, new ticker OUST. We have Tattooed Chef, so TTCF. They will be reporting earnings tonight. But the other headline for them today was they have an announcement out that they have 6 new plant-powered products that will be available nationwide in Target stores beginning March 15th. You know, so we may get some more color on that with their earnings report, but otherwise, you know, that again, that's a huge deal. Tattooed Chef has products in Target. They have products in some of the big box stores like Costco. You know, they spent some money on marketing over the last couple quarters to really, you know, boost their own branded products. And they also launched that e-commerce platform. So again, they report earnings tonight, but that Target nationwide rollout, you know, will hit in the next quarter as well. We have XL, so XL Fleet. You know, we talked about this one before. They have been the target of a short report from Muddy Waters. So Muddy Waters out again today, continuing that attack, talking about how XL is not able to renew, you know, most of their contracts with existing customers. You know, a lot of fake technology and just not a lot there. And then Muddy Waters was supposed to have a CNBC appearance as well today to really dive into the XL Fleet story, and saying that XL Fleet in their response to the short report really didn't clarify, you know, what was true and what was false. So, you know, I do not have a position in XL. I'm on the sidelines here, but keep an eye on this one, you know, as this short report looks like it continues to go on and on right now. We have RPLA, that's Replay Acquisition Corp. So merging with Finance of America, they announced today a reverse unit to launch Equity Avail, a new mortgage product in April. We, of course, had Patty Cook on, the CEO of Finance of America. You know, this is not just a mortgage company, but they're also in several other financial areas. So keep an eye on RPLA, trading right around that net asset value going into the vote date. So keep an eye out there on your watch list. We have FRXB. That's the second SPAC from Shaquille O'Neal and those 3 Disney executives. So again, that first SPAC, FRX, which I own shares of, merging with Beachbody and MyX Fitness. This is the second SPAC from that group, so it'll trade as FRXBU today in units. I know I'll be looking at it. Again, 3 former Disney executives. You have Shaquille O'Neal. You know, it's the strong team. I was in FRX before they announced that deal. So I'll be looking at this one. We got a new announcement of a new SPAC from Virgin Group. So Richard Branson, of course, that new ticker will be VIII. That first SPAC from Virgin Group, VGAC, remember, announced their deal with 23andMe, you know, the at-home DNA genomics testing. But there was some rumors, of course, that Virgin Group could, you know, take Virgin Orbit or another Virgin Group company public. So with this, you know, new SPAC from Virgin Group, and they also have a second SPAC out there, maybe one of those other ones, you know, gets a run instead. We have Grab, which is a food delivery and payments company in Asia, headquartered in Singapore. They are in talks to go public, and they have said that they are exploring a SPAC. So, maybe we dive into the list a little bit and we look at some of those SPACs that are targeting, overseas and the Asia market in particular, because Grab is a very well-known, delivery and payments company over there. So this one could be an exciting deal if we get an announcement or if we get, some rumors and which tickers. Our other rumor we have from Bloomberg, we have ticker DFNS. That cybersecurity company IronNet is in talks to go public with this SPAC. It's a defense-oriented SPAC and cybersecurity company as the target here. So keep an eye out on that one. We talked, how most SPACs were seeing a lot more green today. We saw a lot more green yesterday. So a statistic I saw online from SPAChero.com was that yesterday SPACs were up an average of 3%. The mover section, when was the last time that we talked about all the movers being up over 10%? So we had TSIA up 13%, VIH up 11%, ACTC up 11%, CCIV up 11%, which I do own shares in, and TPGY up 10%. So, 5 SPACs up 10% or more yesterday to top that list. And then MOTN, which was our deal announcement yesterday with Ambulance, up 1% on the day. The other SPAC that I want to highlight in headlines today is IPOE. So IPOE is bringing SoFi public. Again, this is a Chamath Palihapitiya SPAC. We talked about it, on that deal announcement. But big news yesterday, they announced that they're acquiring Golden Pacific Bank, paying $22.3 million. This is a California community bank. They're going to keep Golden Pacific Bancorp as a division of SoFi with its physical footprint of 3 existing physical branches. And they're going to use this to help, pursue that national bank charter. And having a national bank charter will allow the company to accept deposits and also make loans using its member deposits rather than the high cost of loan offerings as a non-bank. So again, this was part of SoFi going public. They talked about going after that national bank charter. And here you have them, making that acquisition to really pursue that route. It's going to, help them with lower cost offerings and also offer more services to their customers. So, keep an eye out on IPOE. I know it was up yesterday, but that deal is just, it's huge for them in that pursuit. And then, of course, we don't just talk SPACs. We also talk IPOs. We have the Roblox IPO today. That's ticker RBLX. We were able to talk to Will Hershey from Round Hill Investments not too long ago, and he shared his thoughts on Roblox with us. Again, huge universe of users, huge growth. It's a direct listing, so we don't have a price set yet, but keep an eye out on this one today. I'll be sitting out on the sidelines looking for, where the bounce comes, as I think this thing, will take off right away. But we'll follow along, when we get more news on that one as well. And then turning to our calendar, tomorrow we have a vote date of IPV with Ava, a LiDAR company. And then as I said, and Mitch also said, we have some earnings coming up tonight. So RSI, Rush Street Interactive, Tattooed Chef, which I said, and then the other one reporting tonight is Skillz, SKLZ. So, 3 former SPACs. All have had decent returns out there, all reporting earnings tonight after close. So, I'll be working on an article on those, and we'll have some highlights for you on tomorrow's show. So that's what I've got for, headlines today, Mitch.
Well, man. I just saw some news that kind of excite me, so I'm going to bring it to the team here. Full disclosure, before I even get to the news, guys, I am long Genius Brands. I put it on my Twitter a couple days ago. I just feel that this one can get some hype and start moving. Why am I bringing up Genius Brands? I'm sure everyone's already hitting the comments up right now, and it's because of this, guys. So right now, I just saw the release. It was released at 11:09 on Benzinga. It looks like Genius Brands are spiking higher right now. An announcement of Roblox deal for the show on the Cartoon channel. So it looks like they got a deal with Roblox. I'm gonna have to go a little bit deeper into the press release because it literally just came out. But this was kind of the thing that I was looking for, Chris. So I mean, I gotta tell myself to this is when you got to tell yourself to hold on tight, because I'm sitting up about 30% now, guys. And usually I can tell you guys right now, 30% to me is a take off the table kind of trade. But in this approach, I was looking for a bigger move. So right now, Roblox is looking like is going to open up somewhere between, it's looking like 60 or 72. It looks like it was originally priced, I think, in the 50s, but you know, I got to be careful. You know, we've talked about this with IPOs and the moment they come out. Day one is the highest volume, but usually it's all about price discovery. So you don't really know where the price is going to go to, if it's going to head up, if it's going to head right back down. So definitely just be careful, guys. A lot of people are going to be watching this one when it opens up. I do like it, the story in the long run. I'm sure Chris would agree too. Also, long run story, it's looking good. But some of the plays that I would look to see and how they react today to kind of keep an eye on Roblox is look at Glue. You know, Glue Mobile. We had the boardman on yesterday. We should have messed with him about it, but we had a lot to talk about DMYI. So another one we could talk about is Zynga. Zynga, I would keep an eye on it, because what I would want these to do is actually start moving up. But you actually see that there's a drop in the sector right now, in media, streaming, and gaming sectors. So just be careful. You know, if there's a drop in those sectors, what's to say Roblox is going to go straight up today? And so I'm just trying to put this out there, not saying that you can't trade it. Just be careful out there. Every time there's a new IPO, it's very, very difficult to trade. I can tell you, I've tried to day trade these, and they don't even go with technicals, at least from what I've seen in my time and experience in the market. It's not like you can just be like, oh, well, here's the support. Well, the price just started. How do you know there's really support there? Support isn't done by just price. It's done by volume profiling and understanding the certain amount of volume that's at a certain price level, guys. So, hey, we'll see what happens with these, but Roblox, we'll see. We'll see. Chris, what are you thinking long term? You a bull?
Yeah, you know, so I do have some boys who love to play Roblox. You know, so I've seen it firsthand.
Got some bias right there.
Yeah, you know, the thing is massive, and the thing that I like about it, and when Will was on too, I know he talked on this, was that you can create games within Roblox, right? So it also has some units similar to like Unity, right? So Unity went public, ticker U, where they help, you know, make games. So Roblox has a platform that allows its users to become developers, create games within the game that they can monetize. And that's huge, because what does it do? It creates more revenue, and it also keeps your users engaged. It keeps your users engaged as developers, and it keeps them engaged, you know, as players, and they spend more money. And, you know, to me, that's huge. And full disclosure, I also own shares of Genius, GNUS. That news with Roblox, you know, obviously perfect timing, right? I mean, the day of Roblox IPO, and they're out with that announcement that, you know, they're going to get some content on that cartoon channel. You know, keep an eye out on GNUS as we trade throughout the day. But again, as Mitch said, IPOs, you know, they trade all over the place. You know, I know Mitch is the chart expert on our show here. To me, you know, it's the long-term story of Roblox, but the short-term is today. We're going to see, you know, massive amount of people looking at this stock wanting to get shares. And for that reason, I think I'll probably end up passing on it today. That old
hey,
music
Chris,
there we go.
All I could say is I'll pull up the Genius chart here. And that's all I could say is I gotta hold my hands. The paper hands gotta become solid. The diamonds need to come out. And I need to just let this one go, because that's the way I was looking at it in the trade, guys. I was looking for a 5X, a 10X. I think I put on my Twitter, I was either going to look like a genius or, I'm sorry to say it, but an anus. And it's looking like I'm a genius today, but hey, we'll see how long that lasts. Like always, you're never right 100% of the time. So always stick to the plan. I need to just look at my plan and let it work now. All right, guys, let's get into some SPACs. Let's get into the watch list. Let's see what we got out there. Let's see what's moving. I see a couple over 10%, so definitely want to get to this watch list. We haven't done it in a while, so let's go ahead and knock it out. Every time in the heat of the night. I love that song. I'm not even gonna lie. I jam to it on the weekends. But let's get into some of these SPACs. All right, so we got Fisker, guys. Fisker doing a little bounce there. One of the things that I'd mentioned about Fisker is that it did get a buy rating, right, Chris?
Yep. And then the other thing with Fisker is Henrik Fisker, CEO, out with some tweets again. You know, it's important to follow some of these people on Twitter. Looks like they passed 14,000 reservations. And then he also had some pictures out of maybe that next prototype vehicle that they're working on with Foxconn. You know, so again, I'm not surprised to see it up, but I am surprised to see it up 10% because it wasn't, you know, a ton of news out there. But this thing has been, you know, just keeping the momentum going. And full disclosure, I do own shares of Fisker. This was one of my top picks for 2021 for former SPACs. So, you know, keep an eye on this one. They have an exciting 2021 ahead and possibly an even more exciting 2022 with the launch of that vehicle.
Yeah, one that I was pointing it out during the sleepy times in January and in early February. One that I got stopped out in, but definitely looking back and would have wished that I would have stuck around in this one. But one thing I definitely say is look for stocks that do this sleepy period type. I'll tell you why, guys, because what ends up happening is you've gotten this drive, right? And so what ends up happening in periods of sideways consolidation is called really price discovery right there. You're figuring out where the bulls and the bears really lie. Every time it broke 15, people got a little worried, but this one recovered every time. And then really what ended up happening was we needed a catalyst to make it move. And we got that catalyst when it started coming on, you know, Kramer and bouncing up here and starting to get a drive. It pulled back and then quickly right back into there. When you get those volume breakouts, that's when you really get the stock to move. And so right here on this pullback day, you got about 16 million shares traded, then 87 million, then 111 million shares traded. What ends up happening, guys, is that's such a strong drive up that when we get this pullback, we should hold towards some resistance. And so if you look at the H, the horizontal line somewhere between this high, you see how it kind of held that high right there. And that's kind of the things that you want to see, especially like, let's say if you got in somewhere near this 15 and you saw it get up there to 30s, thought you were going to sell, but then it came back towards 2022. And now it's time to determine, hey, am I going to hold towards this high again? Or am I looking for this stock to kind of just sell out here and take the profits? One thing I would say is as long as it can hold this high and keep closing above this, it's looking good on a bullish side. All right, let's keep going. Next one, CIIC, guys. This is one I wanted. I was thinking about it. It was pulling back, but you know how I am, guys, in SPACs. It's very hard for me to get into any SPAC over that pricing of 1050. And really, I don't get into anything over 11 or 12s. So right here, guys, this is CIIC. We had them on, you know, I think about like 2 or 3 weeks ago, right, Chris?
Yep.
And so one thing I'm noticing with this, yeah, Arrival. And one thing I'm noticing Arrival is that they've been talking a lot about their UK bus system, guys. So keep an eye on that. I've been seeing multiple posts. I've shared them on our Twitter just so you guys can get access to it. But like always, guys, keep an eye on it. You know, that's something that we're definitely following, and we're going to see how kind of that bus industry develops. So right now it looks like they're doing some testing in the UK. So keep an eye on it. Maybe they actually start, you know, just jumping on the technology. And one thing to mention is what I like about CIIC is the international footprint, not just we're just talking about something that's located here in the United States. I think that definitely benefits them in the long run. All right,
yeah, and remember Arrival too, that micro factory technology that they have. I mean, that video that we played during that interview, like that thing has the potential to just be massive going forward, you know. So this is one, yeah, that I'm not in, and I wish I would have gotten in, you know, when I believed in this, but definitely, you know, keeping this one on the watch list. But yeah, big jump today. As Mitch said, they are getting out there with some news, you know, and some announcements for the UK. So keep an eye out on Arrival here.
All right, let's keep going through here. Let's see what else we got here. I'm seeing a lot of people just want to talk about VGAC. So, hey, we don't ignore our chat. We see you out there, guys. We see you mentioning it like 5-6 times. Hey, I'm going to go ahead and start looking at it for you guys here. Let's take a look. VGAC, what's been going on, Chris? Do you know anything?
Yeah, so VGAC, you know, merging with 23andMe. I don't see a lot of new news out there. This is one that, you know, really acted strange, right? Because the rumor came out that it was going to be 23andMe, and it sold off, right? It didn't look that attractive to people. Then they announced the deal, and it spiked, right? It took off. They got an appearance on CNBC, and all of a sudden everyone loved 23andMe. And then the other thing that everyone was watching was, hey, this is a genomics company. I bet Cathie Wood adds it to the genomics ETF. Well, so far, Cathie Wood has not touched this thing. And as we've seen with SPACs, she has a tendency to get in early. So, you know, I'm not saying she won't ever add this one, but I don't think it's a good sign that she hasn't taken an initial position yet. So to me, if you were holding VGAC hoping for the Cathie Wood addition, I don't know if that's going to happen. So, you know, but they do have some exciting partnerships on some drug development out there because they have that massive database, right, of, you know, user data. I think that's, you know, the key for growth going forward, but it may be a couple of years away.
Yeah, you know, one thing I like that you mentioned was the genomics, and that's what I wanted to point out, guys. And that's some of the fields that we're going to point out in Cathie Woods and Ark Invest is look into their technologies, you know, that they're going into and going after. This is how you go ahead and you try to get these on the cheap, you know. And one thing you got to look at is what I would look at, like a stock that's past the rumor or past the merger date, is you need to see where the bottom is all-time bottom. Because I'm starting to feel like, hey, if I can get them near that all-time bottom and just risk right underneath it, it limits my risk profile and it gives me a potential for this stock to get some buyers at the all-time low and then let it come right back up. Perfect example on this chart here, guys. So a stock that had a rumor, ripped out. And one thing you want to see is when you get these big pullback bars, was it the market that helped it pull back, or was it the stock that got hit with a negative catalyst? That's the difference between a chart like VGAC and a chart like Clove. Clove was heading down and then got a negative catalyst on top of the negative action and the price action. This is a negative price action, but a positive story. And so that's why stories can change in an instant. And this one, I really think that in the long run, you could see Cathie get into something like this. And so I'm not saying that they're in it right now, they're going to attack it, but I can tell you, at least from my understanding and how she attacks by the dip moments, this could be one of those by the dip moments that she could be attacking. All right, guys, let's get into some other stocks, some of the ones that Cathie's looking in, and then we'll get back to maybe some kind of ticker time from the chat. I know there's a lot of tickers moving, a lot of people who want to talk about certain moves, whether it be Atlas, whether it be SEAH, whether it be Romeo. I don't think we're going to talk about BNNGO. No bingo here.
No bingo here.
No bingo here. But we'll get into some of these. Let's go ahead and unlock some SPACs here, Chris, and get into some of the Cathie Wood Ark Invest ones that they're looking at. All right, Chris. So tell us, what is out there? What has been actually purchased? What hasn't? And where are the positions?
Yeah, so Mitch, and if you want to pull up some of these charts here, so we're going to walk through, so ARK funds, right? There's several ARK funds out there. They all hit on different target areas. But Cathie Wood has been adding SPACs to the portfolio, and again, we get those daily emails that show, the buy and sell transactions within the funds, which does have a tendency to move some of these stocks higher. And the one thing I pointed out in a prior article was that even if you follow Cathie into some of these SPACs on that first purchase, you still end up, positive, which may not be the case anymore with that dip that we took. But normally when she initiates a position, it could be a good time. And again, do your own due diligence, but she has a keen eye for growth. And, when we have over 400 SPACs out there, the fact that she's adding, 10 of these, those 10 may be the ones to take a harder look at. So up first, we have DraftKings, so ticker DKNG. So DraftKings has been a recent purchase, right? So it is currently in ARKW ETF. That's the Ark Innovation. It is position number 29. She owns 1.38 million shares worth $82 million, which represents 1.2%. And then DraftKings is also in ARKF, which is the fintech ETF from the company. So in that ETF, they own 604.5 thousand, worth 37.6 million, or 1% of assets. So DraftKings is one of, a couple SPACs that is owned in one ETF, which to me is a huge bullish sign. And listened to the ARK webinar yesterday. They were out with some more comments on, the future of sports betting. And then also, Cathie Wood, when she did an interview with Benzinga's own Jason Raznick, she highlighted DraftKings, as one of the stocks to talk about that day. So, the company is very bullish, and one of the reasons is the technology platform. So DraftKings, when they announced that merger, they also acquired SB Tech. So SB Tech is the thing behind the thing. It's kind of like a GAN, right, where it powers the sports betting platforms. So right now, DraftKings was using Kambi, which is a Swedish company, but later this year, they're going to move over to their own platform. So what does that mean? They control the technology. They control the back end. So when DraftKings had problems before the Super Bowl with people placing their bets, that was Kambi's fault. Now it will be on DraftKings, to power their own technology. And the other thing, what does that mean? It helps with their margins, right? They're not paying out to another company, for that back end support. They control it. So, I think DraftKings definitely, as we've said on the show before, has a bright future. It's one of the leaders in the sports betting market, and ARK, betting big on it going forward.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead, guys, here and play a little snippet of yesterday's webinar from Ark Invest. They went through this with certain analysts, so you're gonna hear an analyst here. And he's going to be talking about DKNG and also the sports betting world overall. One thing that you can clearly see, at least from the slide, they also talked about linear advertisement and how the advertisement dollars are going down. So let's go ahead and take a look here. I'm going to put myself on mute and play this.
Ren, if you could go to the next slide. And we think this is something to constantly be monitoring because of how important live sports are for the live and linear TV market. And what we've noticed, and we've kind of reading the tea leaves here, that for the first time ever, what we're witnessing is you now have streaming players with deeper pockets and more distribution than those players in the linear TV space. What do I mean by that? A company like Roku, who just reported numbers, talked about how the number of households that the Roku TV operating system is now twice that of the linear TV space. If you think about the reach of Apple, Google, and Amazon, they reach more consumers than any linear TV player that's still available today. So we think with the reach that they have and with the deep pockets that they have, we could see one of these major sports leagues in the next few years make a massive shift, which would really shake things up for the linear TV space and add a ton of value to connected TV. Just ending here, we've talked about all this doom and gloom for the linear TV space. Just thinking about what's going to happen on the connected TV side, this is not just a domestic story. We actually believe that this is a global story for these players. Roku, The Trade Desk, Amazon, Disney, all of these players have a global opportunity, the likes of which the linear TV players, just given the nature of the business, having to lay cables, a lot of infrastructure costs, did not have. So with that, I'll just hand it back.
Hey, you guys heard it there, guys. So let me go ahead and hit pause so that's not in my ear. But yeah, one thing that I'll be definitely paying attention to is how these digital platforms really move over to the, the snippet of the cable, and at the end of the day, digital is the way, guys. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know if you guys are still watching through a cord, but most majority of them are going to be streaming. Even one thing I noticed is that even major streaming providers, like or cable providers, like let's say Comcast, they have their own app now, their own streaming app. They know what the future is, guys. The future is we're going to stream cable. We're going to stream it. And so with that being said, relationships like you see DKNG, get into with streaming providers is going to be very important. And also how those two will mix and how they bring in the aspect of, let's say, betting live or something like that.
Yeah, I know, you and I talked about it yesterday, Mitch, right? So DraftKings has that deal with Dish Network. So that's going to allow them to put the bets right up on the screen, right? So if you're a Dish Network customer, you have a DraftKings account, you can see all the betting options, right there live on your screen. It will prompt you then to place the bets through your phone right now. And that's a story I'm watching. I do own shares of Fubo. We've talked about Fubo on the show, right? It was a uplisting last year. One of Mitch's, hot picks down there in the dumps in the 10 to 11 range before that thing took off. So Fubo has a deal for sports betting too. And, there could be a race here for these media companies to partner with, sports betting companies. So, is FanDuel next, right? Is BetMGM next? Does someone, try to partner with, Penn? Get Barstool Sportsbook, integrated into one of the streaming channels or the sports networks. So keep an eye out, not just sports betting names, but also the media companies, attacking the sports market. So, turning past DraftKings, another big holding in SPACs for Cathie Wood is Open. So ticker OPEN. This is Open Door, which was IPOB at Chamath Palihapitiya SPAC. So this one is also held in two different ETFs. So it is the number 16 position in ARKW with 6.3 million shares worth $135 million, 1.9% of assets. And then it's also number 16 in ARKF, 4.1 million shares, $88.3 million, 2.3% of assets. I don't want to do a ton on Open Door because we just touched on that one. Yesterday or the day before, but right, buying and selling houses online and through that Open Door platform, is going to be a massive growth market going forward. So, Ark getting ahead of the game here, having a large stake in Open Door. And then we have Skillz, SKLZ. So this is in the ARKW ETF. It's position 33. She owns 3.1 million shares. That's almost $80 million, 1.1% of assets. And the thing I'll note here with Skillz was that they were just the recent, attack of a short report. And even on that day when that short report came out, Ark was adding to its position, right? It didn't phase her, right? The long-term story of Skillz, the ability to, do mobile gaming and, wager or bet against person to person. And they also have that partnership with the NFL, which is coming later on. They have some strong investments, including several sports leagues. So keep an eye out on Skillz, and this was one that was also owned in the Nerd ETF when we talked to Roundhill, and, they were very bullish on it going forward as well. And then we have CMLF. This is Sema4. So this is an ARKG, the Ark Genomics ETF. 4.2 million shares held, $66.9 million, 0.7% of assets. So again, genomics, right? Huge area of growth according to ARK funds. It could be the next, revolutionary market. So we're seeing some of these SPACs that have ties to genomics get added to ARKG right away. So CMLF was one that got added right away, and you can see that spike up, right? Like this thing took off on deal announcement, but then once it got added to the ARK funds, I mean, it really launched, which is that whole huge bar there, fallen back down, on the last couple, the dip last week. So keep an eye out on this one, because again, ARK has been adding to this position, increasing its weighting. So, looks like they have, a bull case going forward for CMLF. Then another one that's held in the Ark Genomics ETF is Butterfly Network. That's BFLY. This is one that they added very early on. 4 million shares, $70.9 million, 0.8% of assets. This is one I've talked about a lot, right? And I've been very bullish on it from the start. You have Bill Gates backing it. You have Bailey Gifford, a noted Tesla investor, backing it. It's a ultrasound, portable ultrasound on a chip, right? So instead of lanking around this, huge equipment, you have a portable ultrasound, which can get you, into more rooms in hospitals. You don't have to move stuff floor to floor. It can also get you into emerging markets, right? And help out some of these, underdeveloped countries where they don't have the huge ultrasound, equipment. You can expand, into, vet offices. You can expand, into other areas that may not, make those huge purchases for the big ultrasounds. So, keep an eye out on BFLY. Again, a long-term favorite of mine. I believe it was on my top 10 list for 2021. But yeah, Cathie Wood has been increasing the position in that former SPAC going forward. SPCE, so Virgin Galactic, number 26 position in ARKQ, which is the autonomous and robotic ETF. 1.7 million shares, that's $50.9 million, 1.6%. And I do own shares of SPCE, and, notable that ARK was actually buying, on that dip last week when it was announced that Chamath had sold out his personal stake. And we'll get to it later, but that upcoming space ETF from ARK, I think SPCE is, worth watching for the possible addition there as well, because the Fed already in an ARK fund, I think sets the company up well to be a prominent position in that ARK space ETF. And then we have also in ARKQ, we have EXPC. So this is the Blade, right? The electric vertical takeoff and landing urban air taxi company. 2.6 million shares held, $30.4 million, 0.9% of assets. There's been several of these EVTOL companies going public via SPAC, and Cathie Wood has added a couple of them. So keep an eye out. Excuse me, on this one. And then we also have another one to get to in a minute, but we do have up first, AONE is the ticker. The company is One Inc. is the SPAC. They're taking Markforged public. So this is a 3D printing, additive manufacturing company in ARKQ. 1.4 million shares owned. That's $17 million, 0.5% of assets. And, I pointed this one out when the deal was announced, and then also that next day, Cathie Wood added this, on the day of the announcement. And she has added to that position, several times. This one has huge customer base, right? Ford, General Motors, Tesla, Lockheed Martin, I believe, Boeing, across several industries. They're able to print, different materials, and really cut down on those manufacturing costs. So keep an eye out on AONE. And then we have Archer, so that's ACIC, similar to Blade. It is a electric vertical takeoff and landing company. The number 43 position in ARKQ, 1.4 million shares, $15.4 million, 0.5% of assets. We had, one of the co-founders of Archer on the show not too long ago, talking about, the urban air, mobility, and also the, Uber of the skies market. So again, Ark has invested in both Blade and Archer, for exposure to that eVTOL market. And then we have Desktop Metal. So Desktop Metal, ticker DM, is the one that kind of gets forgotten because it's in the 3D printing ETF, which is owned by Ark, but it's not, one of the main ones that Ark talks about all the time, or even, mentioned like right on the website. So the ticker is PRNT for that ETF, but Desktop Metal, ticker DM, does have a position in there. So keep an eye out on this one. And DM and AONE, very similar, but they also have some differences, especially when it comes to valuation. So, keep an eye out. So those are all the SPACs currently owned within the Ark ETFs. The other one I want to get to, before we maybe touch on that space ETF and some commentary here is ticker CAPA. So Kappa, this is a High Cape Acquisition Corp. So they are taking Quantum C public. So this company was also founded by Jonathan Rothberg, the founder of Butterfly Network that we just talked about. So this is a sequencing and genomic company, and Ark Funds was actually involved in the pipe on this SPAC deal. So there isn't a lot of information out there about how much Ark invested or what their involvement really is. And they have been quiet on it. And also Kappa has not been added directly to any of the Ark ETFs, including Ark Genomics, right? But the story here is that yesterday at that webinar, they actually highlighted Quantum C for the first time. So their genomics analyst talked about it, and he said that Quantum C has a sequencing approach that could help improve speed and not having to use complex information algorithms. And he said improvements in semiconductor manufacturing is one of the ways to improve and unlock portions of the addressable market. So that was really the first time that I heard them talk publicly about Quantum C. It's part of their big ideas, talking about genomics and, the semiconductor involvement there. So to me, I think they're in a quiet period since they did invest in the pipe, and I do own shares of Kappa. And I think this one starts going higher. And it started moving yesterday, on Ark mentioning it. And I think the story here is, once it gets more and more known what Ark's involvement is and what that investment looks like, and maybe it ends up in the Ark Genomics ETF once they're able to, add it. But even if it doesn't get added to the Ark Genomics ETF, this is a hold for me. That sequencing technology, the fact that it was founded by the same guy, who founded Butterfly Networks, I think it's a great company in that market. So keep an eye on that one. Again, it's not currently in a Ark ETF, but after the comments yesterday, have to mention it on today's show. So what do you think, Mitch? What stands out, with the SPACs that Ark has selected, maybe before we dive into that upcoming space ETF?
Yeah, one thing I would say is I'll get into the space ETF and keep those stocks with that one. But definitely Chris and I got into Kappa yesterday based off of that webinar. We were watching it, and I was really trying to determine, even before I took that trade, I was looking for a potential to get in this one. So just to give you guys some insight and where I got in. So it was funny. I stepped away from my computer for about 5 minutes. And in that 5 minutes, Chris texts me and he's like, yo, they mentioned Kappa. And I'm like, are you serious? I was watching this stock while I was going sideways through the speech. And I'm like, when are they going to mention it? When are they going to mention it? All of a sudden I come back and I see this big old candle rip up to 1290s. a lot of people right there would have probably bought the 1290s and would have just jumped into it. So what I did there is I know I didn't want to get 1290s, guys. So I put out a big pullback level that I thought, hey, if I got filled, at least I wouldn't be too mad because I wanted the stock near this 1240s. So what I did was I extended my risk a little bit up. So I said I was going to risk about 40 cents. Let's go ahead and risk near about 60 70 cents on this trade and look for a good rip here. So when this one started pulling back, I put out an order around 1260s and I got actually filled at around 1266. And it wasn't the bottom of the pullback, but that's how I approached it, and at least giving me an ability to get into that pullback. And now that it's ripped up, I can, just hang out. This one had already gone to about 14. And we'll see if it can kind of continues. It did a little pullback. I'm going to let it continue going. I'm in this one for the long run, guys, just to give you guys some insight. I'm looking for a big move on this one. On the yearly, I would be looking for a move back up to 20. And then that's when I would be getting out of this one as it gets to the breakout. I usually try to get out near the top of the resistance. And then if it continues going, well, so be it. But to me, that would be an awesome gain. That would be 100% gainer, close to 100% gainer. We're talking about 70, 80% gainer. And let's see what happens in Kappa. But let's get into what I know a lot of people want to talk about is the space ETF. What's going to happen? When could it come out? I've heard the rumor. It was mentioned also in the chat here that the earliest it could come out, I think, is the 29th of March. Am I correct with that, Chris? At least technically wise.
That's the date I have circled on my calendar. I actually have the day before that circled on my calendar. But according to normal ETF practices, is once they issue that filing with the SEC, there's a certain number of days before the ETF can launch. So if you do the math, March 29th is the date that I get. Again, that would be the earliest. So there's a chance it could launch, later after that. But the earliest it will launch, March 29th. So I think it's a good time, since we're talking Cathie Wood. I've got those tickers there, Mitch. If you want to put those up on screen, those are the space SPACs or the space-related SPACs. And again, the space market, there's tons of companies to choose from. And if you read the original filing that Ark put out, it's not just limited to space companies or rocket companies. It could involve, 3D printing companies. So, maybe a Desktop Metal or a AONE also ends up. It could be satellites. It could be, 5G companies, using the space. So that ticker NPA up there, is the 5G from space. So of these tickers, full disclosure, I own SPCE, I own HOL, and I own SRAC. So I already touched on Virgin Galactic a little bit. That one's already owned by Ark. And also Ark has an affiliation with a Japanese company that has a space ETF, and Virgin Galactic is the largest holding in that ETF. So to me, I really think Virgin Galactic gets added. The questions I have is, which other space SPACs are going to be included? So what do you think, Mitch? I know aside from the SPACs, you've been looking at some other satellite companies, but what do you think, with the space ETF?
So with the space ETF, I think it's all about timing, and what prices she's going to be grabbing. If she's grabbing prices on this pullback, then yeah, that would be the best time. But of course, it's not out right now. So we need to watch the environment and what prices these stocks are at near the level when it comes out, guys. So that's one thing I definitely keep an eye out, because let's say if it comes out and they're near the support, I'm jumping in. Because millions of dollars can end up flowing through these SPACs. And so that right there, that volume, that amount of money could really move these stocks. But one thing I don't want to see is if the stocks are near that high, near that resistance, yeah, it could go up a little bit more, but you also have that floor to fall through. And that's something that I definitely pay attention to. Now, to talk about specifics. All right. So guys, there's a couple of these that I would be like no-brainer to me. No-brainer to me is going to be HOL, SRAC, and NPA. Why? Because I just feel like those have the best business strategies, and they're trying to focus on certain areas in space versus be a complete overall space company. And so let's take a real close look at HOL. I like where it's at on the chart, and that's why I'm going to bring this one up right now. And let's take a look here. I'm going to put it up on the chart here, and look at this pullback, guys. You're getting a pullback closer towards this resistance, towards the 1130s. That's when you got this big dip on the 5th of March. And man, that would have been maybe the price to target, but I mean, that's a little bit hard to get in there. It was a really quick dip, and the next day it was already up over 12. That kind of shows you that level right there isn't a bad level to go off of, because if something can immediately recover that level, that shows that the price volume there actually was bigger and could increase. So I'm going to keep an eye on this one. I like this one near kind of the 12.50s to $12, so that you can get a look back up towards, let's say, 22 or 24 on a breakout. But definitely HOL, I like this one in the long run, and we'll keep an eye on it. Now, to go into one that I'm not too big of a fan, and it hurts to say it sometimes. You know, I don't like to go against Chris, but sometimes we are. We're gonna have different opinions, right? And then that's what the show is really about, guys, is that we're each just kind of giving what we think about certain stocks and how we can make, you know, wealth off of this, really. And so to me, SPCE, I just see it as a losing battle for Cathie, and as a losing battle for a lot of retail investors. Why? Because in my eyes, I just feel that consumers are going to see this as kind of a gimmick in the long run. In my eyes, I think that, you know, this is going to be space travel, and to think about it, I just don't see people paying up the price tag to get into a stock like this. But does it have potential? I mean, it went up to 60. It definitely has potential. But the question is, will they be able to succeed in what they want to do in the long term? And we're talking really long term here, guys. It's not we're not talking about next 3 weeks. We're talking about long term. And to me, I personally have always compared this stock with the stock that I feel is the leader in space, which is Maxar. And I know someone mentioned that in the chat there, so definitely a shout out whoever mentioned that. But this one's not a SPAC, but at least in my eyes, the leader in the space. Unless SpaceX comes out, I take a look at this one to tell me how the space race is doing and how we're going to continue moving. So one thing I noticed is that this one, when it first got on my radar, guys, when we popped through this $10 level, and then what ended up happening is there were so many government contracts down near these $12, $16 level, and that gave it a bottoming, a floor. And so to me, I look in space where I can get government contracts. That's what stands out, guys. If it ain't government contract, I ain't even taking a look, because consumers can always pull their money back, but governments and that yearly contract, I think that one gets paid out. And that's why I stick with Maxar.
And guys, I know someone brought it up in the chat, and Mitch, I gave you the wrong ticker. So it's not VTAQ, it's VACQ is the Rocket Lab space SPAC out there. So yeah, you know, and Mitch is on with that SPCE, right? Is the passenger space industry, you know, how high can that go? So for me, with Virgin Galactic, I'm hoping, you know, they do have a flight coming up this year with the Italian space agency that will actually bring in revenue, and that'll take, you know, some people to space, you know, for a space mission. So can they replicate that? Can they, you know, move past just the passenger space travel? And also, you know, are they going to go into, you know, hypersonics, you know, flights, which is also another area of growth that Cathie Wood has talked about. So, you know, maybe space or SPCE can move past just space travel. But, you know, good points brought up there by Mitch. Again, I own SPCE. You know, but yeah, so the space ETF is very exciting. We'll be hitting on it again, of course, as it gets closer, and then also once it launches. So we just wanted to bring you some SPACs, you know, to keep on your radar that could be added there. And then again, we talked about those SPACs that Cathie Wood and ARK funds already own. So I know it's noon, so we're getting ready to wrap. So tomorrow on the show, we do have another interview. We'll be talking with the executives. We're looking at ticker GIX, which is bringing UpHealth public via SPAC deal. And I know that that vote deal is coming up soon. So we'll really be diving in, looking at what the company has in store in the future. So as always, guys, stay tuned, stick with SPACs Attack, bringing you those exclusive interviews. Smash the like if you have not, share our video, and stay tuned. We've got Power Hour coming up next. And speaking of space SPACs, we've got this space-related SPACs Attack shirt in our merch store. The link is below in the video description. So we'll catch you tomorrow, though. Otherwise, what else, Mitch?
Hey guys, like always, definitely stick with us. We're going to be coming out with some brand new content working into the evening. So if you guys want some more entertaining stuff on Benzinga, let us know what you want to see. One thing we want to do is give you guys education, but we also want to entertain you guys. We want you guys to have fun. So smash the like button, hit the subscribe bell below, and we'll see you next time, guys, on the SPACs Attack, baby.